Cool. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew, and today I'm going to be walking through the LineaPy platform demo. Let me share my screen real quick. So the code and everything that you need to run this demo is in this Linea platform demo repository. So make sure that you have the access for this repository and are able to clone it locally. Just quickly, some prerequisites before running this demo. You should have some basic familiarity with the LineaPy open source capabilities because we're hosting LineaPy. And also for this demo, you're going to want to make sure that you have a Docker Compose. So just really quickly, you should be able to check that with by going to your command line and typing Docker Compose help. And if you have it, and this shows up, you're ready to go. Cool. So just a quick introduction for what this demo is doing. So this demo is really about demonstrating how easy it is to host the LineaPy components, such as the Artifact Store and connecting to an orchestrator to really have a end-to-end environment where data scientists can do their development work, create pipelines, and have it immediately go into production. So this tutorial basically spins up 4 major components. The first component is a development environment with LineaPy already set up. This is where you can do your development work in your Jupyter notebook, all the fun exploration stuff, using LineaPy open source capabilities. The other 2 components here are the Postgres database and the S3 compatible object store. So these 2 components together form the Linea Artifact Store, which will store all the artifacts and their associated metadata created when you're exploring in the development environment. And the last thing that is really important that is spun up by this demo is an instance of Airflow, which is an execution engine, which will be able to take the pipelines that we generate and run them. So yeah, to get started with this tutorial, basically it's super simple. In the LineaPy platform demo repository that I've cloned, all I have to do is type in Docker Compose up, and this will start spinning up our containers. And just really quick, I want to demonstrate some of the containers that we are able to connect to. So the first one of interest is the Jupyter server. So password for this is LineaPy. And so the way to connect to all of these is documented here as well. So we are able to connect to our development environment here with our work folder and some notebooks. The other important service that is spun up here is the Airflow service. And so for this one, connection is a little bit trickier. You have to go back to the command line and copy the password that they generate with the username admin. Just a quick note here, also, there's a way to get this password if you can't find it in the log lines. So don't worry if that goes missing and you can't find it. And yep, this is our Airflow environment all set up. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the remote storage. So we're using MinIO here, LineaPy. And we can actually see that our remote storage has 2 buckets right now. There's a data bucket, which if we browse, contains a data folder with some of our training data that we'll use in our development environment. And the other bucket is the artifact store, which currently does not have any artifacts in it because we haven't done any exploration using LineaPy yet. Cool. Yeah. So just really quick, there's some verification here for the environment. I recommend that everybody run this once it starts. Basically, this notebook is just verifying that the LineaPy options are set correctly so that the database is connected to the Postgres database that we set up. The artifact store is pointing to the bucket that I just pointed out, and that the storage options are set correctly as well. All right, so let's run through the main part of the demo. So now let's put ourselves in the user's shoes. We're a data scientist doing our development work. We have our notebook running in our LineaPy development environment. And we start off by grabbing some of our data from our S3 bucket, like I showed earlier, from the data bucket. And we do some manipulations on our training data, some exploratory data analysis, generate some cool plots, awesome stuff. All right, here we go. And this is the point, say after we've done some analysis and we want to save our output. So at this point, we're pretty happy with, how we've manipulated our training data. We think it's ready to go. So we're going to call this line here, which is, saving the training data to our CSV and in our S3 bucket. And so at this point, we can go check in our data bucket, and we can see in the outputs that this clean data housing.csv training data file has been created. And the cool thing about Linea is that we are able to save this as an artifact. So that's, excuse me, it's these two lines here. And yeah, we are not only are we able to, save this data as an artifact, but we're also able to create a pipeline out of it. So this artifact, which is the clean data housing training data that we just saw in the output, we are able to call lineapy.toPipeline to recreate a pipeline that will, create this training data for us again and again. So I believe I just ran this. I have not yet. So this is the toPipeline call. And you can see that it is generating a bunch of files in the Airflow DAGs directory. And so the cool thing about this demo is that this is actually linked directly to the Airflow directory. And so as soon as I refresh the page, we can see this pipeline show up. And we should be able to delete the old housing data. And just to demonstrate, that this pipeline has been created correctly and is runnable, we should be able to trigger this DAG. And once again, just a reminder, this DAG is associated with the pipeline that generates the cleaned housing data CSV training data that we just saw in the bucket. So once this DAG runs correctly, any second now. Oh, it already ran. We should be able to go back to our data and our outputs, and we can see that the pipeline has run successfully because our training data CSV has been regenerated. Cool. Similarly, we can go through the rest of these notebooks. In this notebook, we are, taking our training data and doing a train validation split and training a model, which we then save as a Linea model housing artifact. And in the final notebook here in pipelining, we actually take this model and the process of creating the model, and we can also call toPipeline with this as well. Basically, excuse me, creating a pipeline that will create not only the pre-processing artifact, which is the training data, but also the model itself. And once again, once these have been run as well, that DAG will also show up automatically in our Airflow setup, which is this one, data housing pipeline. And this DAG is also runnable. Just want to quickly demonstrate. Yep, and we can see that these modules, these Python operators are being scheduled and run successfully. And there we go. Everything is successfully run. Yeah, so also just really quickly, how to clean up after this demo. So after this demo is done, you should be able to stop everything simply with a docker compose down -v command. And this will make sure that all of the containers and volumes created by this demo are removed, and none of these should be accessible and up anymore. Yeah, so that's the demo. Feel free to play around with it. There's this README here has a little bit more information on how to manage the requirements and how the configurations are managed, and a lot more details about how this is all implemented. And yeah, we're excited to see what feedback and cool things that you guys can come up with this. Yeah, thank you. That's all.